Who wins when a Necromorph from the Dead Space games goes toe to toe with a Xenomorph from the Alien movies? In the red corner we have the Slasher Necromorph, made by a dead human body being reanimated and transformed by the signal from the markers, or created directly by another Necromorph type, the Infector. The purpose of the Slasher type is to attack any living thing that moves, creating more bodies which can then be turned into even more Necromorphs. In appearance, the Slasher resembles a twisted, mutilated corpse with two long arms sporting scythe blades made of bone. These serve as their primary weapons, and as well as that, they will grapple with and bite their victims. The Slasher will also sometimes play dead and lie on the floor until approached, and then will spring to its feet and attack. This Necromorph is very fast and agile. They can sprint at a high speed and are flexible enough to traverse through air vents and ductwork. Traditional attacks such as bludgeoning weapons and firearms do little damage to them. To take them down, you must remove their limbs with a cutting tool such as a ripper saw blade or a plasma cutter. Strengths. The Necromorph is very fast and agile and can deal powerful attacks. Being a reanimated corpse, they feel no pain and, as they are controlled by a hive mind, have no sense of fear or self-preservation. It is also difficult to kill if you don't know to target the limbs. Weaknesses. While they are capable of stealth, they are not as stealthy as a Xenomorph. They are also weaker physically than the Xenomorph, as they can be thrown off by a human, and they lack the Xenomorph's intelligence. And in the blue corner we have the Xenomorph drone, also called the Big Chap Alien. The drone Xenomorph types are born from a human host impregnated by a facehugger. The infant alien will then develop into the chestburster stage, which will violently make its way out of the host through the chest cavity, and mature into a drone. They are distinguished by their translucent white head dome and visible eye sockets underneath. After a few weeks, a drone's exoskeleton will fully harden and they will become a warrior. The role of a drone is to begin the process of establishing a Xenomorph hive. They will do this by coating every surface within their territory with a resin they secrete, and then they will venture outwards looking for hosts to bring back for impregnation to increase their numbers, or if no queen is present to lay eggs, then the host can instead be used for egg morphing. Once the hive is established, the drones will mature into warriors, essentially the same as a drone but with a fully hardened exoskeleton, making them more durable, and they will serve to protect the hive and its queen. In appearance, the drone is black in colour with biomechanical features, a translucent dome, a humanoid body layout and a long tail. They are very strong, fast, stealthy and intelligent, and have a mouth lined with sharp teeth, an inner jaw used to headbite their victims, sharp claws on their hands, and a bladed tail barb used for stabbing and impaling. They have a hard carapace for defense, and if anything can get through that, then their blood is a highly concentrated, pressurized acid that will squirt out and drench their attacker, leading to injury or death. Strengths. The Xenomorph is also fast and agile, but in addition is stronger and stealthier than the Necromorph, has a more powerful bite, is far more intelligent, and has its acidic blood. Weaknesses. Being a fully alive creature, they can feel pain unlike a Necromorph, and while intelligent with the capacity to learn, they would need experience dealing with Necromorphs to know to sever the limbs. A lone Necromorph is wandering around a corridor of a spaceship. Its stomping and gurgling noises attract the attention of a Xenomorph. The drone silently glides through the ventilation shaft overhead, and it finds the Necromorph below. It exits the vent and hovers over it in the shadows. It senses that it is not alive, so is unsuitable as a host, but is still a threat. It approaches closer from behind and unfurls its tail. It stabs the Necromorph through the torso and lifts it up so it can deliver a head bite. But the Necromorph, being undead, suffers practically no damage from this attack and goes wild, thrashing around and swinging its arm blades in every direction. Then one of the blades goes through the alien's tail, severing it clean off. The Xeno screeches and the Slasher falls back down to the floor. The Necromorph's lifeless, milky eyes fixate on the Xenomorph, which is still clung to the ceiling, and roars at it with a horrendous noise that echoes throughout the ship. The Xenomorph snarls back, then goes back into the vents to try and come at it with another ambush. The Necromorph jumps into a vent next to it and exits into the next room and searches for the Xenomorph. Following the noises, the alien exits the same vent the Slasher just came out of and looks around the room, but it is now silent and there is no sign of the Necromorph. Its scent is still here however, so it can't be far. The alien turns a corner and sees the Slasher sprawled out on the floor. It must have died from the wounds. The alien approaches it cautiously. Something isn't quite right. Then just as the alien's on top of it, it jumps to its feet and swings at the Xeno, catching it off guard and knocking it back. The Necromorph runs and charges at the Xenomorph, but the Xenomorph, being easily a foot taller and having a more solid build, grabs hold of it like a praying mantis before it has the chance to land a hit. The alien lifts it up and bares its teeth. The drool falls down into the Necromorph's rabid face. The alien's jaws slowly open and the inner jaw shoots outwards and through the Necromorph's forehead and drops it back onto the ground. Except the Necromorph can still function without a brain, and despite having a hole through its forehead, continues to function like normal. It goes berserk and swings its blade towards the Xenomorph and lands a blow on the collarbone area, puncturing into its exoskeleton. The Xenomorph screeches with pain and the Necromorph latches onto the Xeno and bites it. Being bigger and stronger, the Xenomorph grabs the Slasher and throws it away and it falls back onto the floor. When it gets back up, its mouth starts burning from the acid and it falls off. The alien then flicks its tail in the Necromorph's direction and the acid lands in its face, burning away the rest of it. Now unable to see, the Slasher moves around aimlessly, attacking in all directions. The Xenomorph approaches again and grabs hold of the Necromorph and opens its jaws, but the Necromorph flails around wildly and slips free from its grip. It slashes relentlessly, hacking off the Xenomorph's arms and then through its head, cutting it off. The winner is the Necromorph. So while the Xenomorph was both larger and stronger than the Necromorph, its usual attacks of head bites and impaling with its tail wouldn't be enough to do significant damage to a Necromorph Slasher. It would have to somehow know to cut off its limbs, which a Xenomorph could do with its tail spike, and would be smart enough to learn, but how it could learn to do so isn't as simple as scrawling a message on the wall like the humans did. At the end of this scenario, the Xenomorph definitely dies, but the Necromorph may or may not die, depending on how much acid blood gets on it. Maybe this one here might die afterwards if the acid dissolved both its arms after it stabbed the Xenomorph, so it's close to a draw, but since it's 50-50 the Necromorph survives its wounds, but the alien definitely died after having its head cut off, this fight goes to the Necromorph. The Xenomorph was stealthier, getting the drop on its opponent and drew first blood, but then I think after that, when the Slasher retaliates, the alien would struggle to kill it outright. I think the best it could do would be to destroy the head, blinding the Necromorph, but not much else beyond that. There just wouldn't be any way for the Xenomorph to know beforehand to cut off the limbs. Then eventually the Slasher would just cut it to ribbons, and then it would depend how much acid the Necromorph gets on itself whether or not it falls after the Xenomorph does. But if somehow the alien knew to remove the limbs, it would probably sneak up on it and then use its sharp tail to do that from behind, and then it could win that way. Both combatants are actually fairly similar to each other, both being alien in origin, using humans as hosts to increase their numbers, and even their names are similar, both ending in morph. Make sure to leave a like on the video as that helps a lot. If you enjoy these versus videos, then I have a whole playlist of them which I'll have on screen if that interests you. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.